Do you want to know what I just came from?
A child's birthday party?
Specifically, it was a child's birthday party that was basically a rave.
I need some more context here because my brain is going to very weird places.
There were glow sticks and there were batons with LEDs that blinked. And it was a birthday party with like 30, to 40 toddlers running around and all sugar hopped up. 10 minutes into the party, they kill the lights and turn on black lights.
Don't you think that's a little bit too much stimuli for a toddler brain?
Yeah. I do think it's too much stimuli for a toddler. I think the toddlers who were having their birthday, not enough stimuli. They could use more. They wanted it.
Wow.
But not everyone is equipped for this. But I thought it was funny to turn the lights out and suddenly realize I can't see shit in here. This is where these kids bully and beat each other up or something, because you would never be able to see.
It becomes like a Lord of the Flies blacklight moment.
It becomes a Lord of the Flies blacklight moment.
Actually, have you heard of blindness? The Jose Saramago book where everyone goes blind and then the worst of humanity is brought out?
No, but I completely believe that.
You basically live through it, but with toddlers.
yeah, but with cupcakes.
Kris and Joanna are close friends with nothing in common. To start a weekly conversation, they ask, "Can I have a word?"
The birthday party was for twins. And they shared a cake, and they each wanted a thing on it. And so the little girl wanted Elsa, and the boy wanted Spider-Man. And the mom used AI to make an Elsa Spider-Man picture of them together, so it could be on the cake.
Oh my God.
Very fun, great idea on how to do that. She said, yeah, wait till you see what it gave me first. And she showed me on her phone a series of images where the AI just gave her semi-pornographic pictures of those two characters.
No.
It was a lot of Spider-Man cupping a boob on Elsa.
Why?
As a default.
Well, as someone who's worked in animation and in specifically kids animation for a bit, you'd be shocked at how much fan art is actually porny.
It was telling that the AI's first thought was to be horny on main. That it makes me think that there are people requesting this more often than not.
It's actually it's disturbing how often people are asking for it.
What if you wanted to see two cartoons going at it? Who would you want to see?
Easy.
This is the easy. You're asking me a question for babies.
I think Hercules is so hot.
The definition of manhood.
Absolutely Hercules. And then I think Jasmine is an absolute stunner. And I know those two worlds don't overlap, but I would pay money to see that.
Yeah, okay. All right.
How about you?
It's part of me wants to pick Woody from Toy Story for the puns, but also because all of his joints are just loose fabric. And so it makes me think that the animation is going to be a lot of fun. I can't figure out who I want him to be having sex with.
I have to say, I'm a little bit concerned that mine went straight to what's the sexiest instead.
Instead, I went for what was funny.
Yeah, I think I should go with what was funny. But I think, okay, imagine Woody with, that character from SpongeBob, the little blowfish.
Oh, Mrs. Puff.
Mrs. Puff.
Okay,
Imagine.
Yeah. She looks more like an egg than a pufferfish, but I do understand what is happening. So her and Woody?
Maybe I just think that's funny.
That's funny.
She's a pufferfish. Water, there's danger.
Yeah.
And Woody
is a brave boy.
Brave fabric boy.
A brave fabric-y boy embroidered with courage. He decides, well, if ChatGPT is going to ask me, I will mount this cartoon blowfish, and I will watch out for spiky bits, and also get it wet a little.
Oh my God, Kris. Jesus Christ. They're underwater, obviously.
It's always wet down here. That's Mrs. Puff's line.
Oh, okay. I think you should write this. My little bronies, the bronies.
I'm aware of bronies, yes.
I made the mistake of telling my nephews about bronies.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I thought this was a good idea to tell teenage boys about bronies. I think I just thought it would be a cool aunt fact.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, this is going to make me a little cooler too.
Yeah, I'm going to let them know about a subculture that's a little risque. We're teasing it out now.
And as teenage boys, they're all every time they see me, they're like, Tia Joanna, tell me more about bronies, as if I know a brony. Like, I don't know that. I just know that there's a subculture of men, like specifically, I think it's majority men that find My Little Ponies kind of like attractive and are like fetishize, and that's all I know.
You gave the boys a headline, and now you are supposed to be the drip feed of this like fetish culture that they find fascinating.
Yeah, they're like, but I don't understand. Like, explain it to me. I'm like, I literally cannot. How do I? I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, do
either.
you find yourself now wanting to do the research so that you can maintain cool aunt status, or do you just feel comfortably lived in with your status?
Well, no. I mean, I gotta see them in a week and a half, and I know they're gonna bring it up.
All right, so incognito mode, like 5 tabs deep, find out about some bronies.
My life is a dark abyss.
Well, thankfully, brony isn't a word that we are going to talk about here. This is Can I Have a Word? This is a show where Joanna and I will talk for a while about a random word generated from a random word generator I found online as soon as I am asked to do so, and you'll listen to it.
Because you're forced to.
You're not forced to. You can always click out of the tab. Please do
so
not. We enjoy having you here.
Please, give us a reason.
We don't know how to live without somebody commenting, pretty good, missed you guys.
Yeah, please. We need this for our self-esteem.
I think I need a question.
Oh, scheisse. Can I have a word?
The word is harsh.
Okay. Harsh.
It's one of those words that as I say it out loud, I'm worried I'm saying it
Harsh.
wrong. Do you ever have those words?
That happens to me a lot, like feverishly.
Feverishly. Yeah.
I once had I was reading a play, and it was a translation from a French, like originally French play, and they wrote fervently, and then people were like, that's not a real word. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is. So I always say fervently instead of feverishly, but I don't think fervently is a word.
Have you gone down the rabbit hole of YouTube clips that pronounce words for you, but it's a robot voice, so they don't sound right?
Absolutely.
I can't imagine you get a solid answer out of this one from them.
Okay, you know what? That's another rabbit hole I'm going to dive into. But okay, harsh, I always attribute it to like criticism.
Uh-huh.
Like harsh criticism is usually the word coupling I hear the word harsh in. Like, maybe harsh conditions.
I feel like harsh only comes out when the person observing the behavior thinks it was a little too much.
That's pretty harsh.
Guys, let's tone that down. We're professionals, but that's harsh.
You very rarely hear someone say, "Hey guys, I'm gonna come out and have some harsh criticisms out here." Like, It feels like harsh is something that you're not self-aware you're doing.
If anything, it's like you got emotional, you said it too much, and then you found out it was harsh.
Yes.
It's a reflective experience.
It is a reflective experience. It's a reflective word. Well, look at this. You know what? I Googled this. The word harsh comes from the Middle English word harske.
Was that your Middle English accent?
Harske. Which was a northern word of Scandinavian origin. The word originally meant hairy, and it was actually used to describe like a hard texture. And then it later morphed to mean offensive to feelings.
Yeah.
And disagreeable in like the 1500s and 1600s. Isn't that funny that like something hairy became something like harsh?
Well, what that made me think of is how much we use like analogous language to describe situations, and how like clear it is in the origins of language. Nobody was doing that because that's a complex maneuver.
It is a complex maneuver. Sorry, you know what popped into my head as you were talking? Harsh criticism came into my head again, and I remember the most harsh criticism I've ever received in my life.
I want to hear it.
So I was in Chicago. I had an acting teacher that was quite fond of me. He really liked my work. He thought I had some semblance of talent. He was sort of imploring me to stay in Chicago and not move to, for example.
As all Chicago teachers do. They just want the good people to stick around there, so eventually they will teach in Chicago. Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know. I think I might be going. I might be leaving after the semester. And then he goes, "What's a horse-faced girl like you gonna do in Los Angeles? Lose 20 pounds? Can you believe he's
What's a horse face girl like you
gonna do in Chicago, in Los Angeles?
Well, that was the counter. What am I gonna do in Chicago? You think the need for horse face is good here?
I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm finding out you think I have a horse face.
Yeah.
And
That's already like a harsh burn.
And second of all, you're telling me I need to lose 20 pounds?
Yeah.
And he said this while he was eating a Chipotle burrito. And I gotta be honest with you, I laughed so hard. Like, I'm a really sensitive person. And for some reason, that did not hurt my feelings at all.
Well, it's utterly absurd to have somebody looking at you while they're scarfing down a carnitas rice bowl to tell you that, like, you can't do what Sarah Michelle Gellar did.
Yeah.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. Sarah Jessica Parker. I got my 3 named Sarahs wrong.
You know what? I'm Sarah Joanna Houseman, and now I can be a horse face girl.
But that's harsh. That's brutal.
So brutal. It was, and I remembered, like, forgetting it happened, and then a couple weeks later I told my friend about it, and my friend was like, are you fucking kidding me?
That's nuts.
That's a crazy thing for a teacher to say.
Now, because you mentioned he had an affection towards you, not like sexual or anything, but like he liked you.
Yeah.
So do you think that it was like he was testing the waters of what sort of lines he can cross and be comfortable because it's like we're close, or did it feel like a total 180 of his personality in that moment?
No, it kind of felt like, you get me. At no point was I like, oh, he's trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
He's actually trying to give me advice.
It was like so cynical and so objective.
Yeah.
That
I was
you were
like, damn.
Yeah, damn.
I feel like harshness doesn't necessarily mean it's hurtful. I wasn't hurt because it was so harsh. It was funny.
Yeah, right.
Because if he was like, I don't think you're going to make it in Los Angeles, I think that's harsh, hurtful. What's a horse face girl like you going to do in Los Angeles? Lose 20 pounds? Is funny.
We ain't made Mr. Ed in a while. You can't get nothing.
Do you remember a really harsh criticism you received?
That I received.
Or you've given?
Well, I would think I will say that I professionally, if I get one criticism regularly as a professional, it is often that, like, I am not a person that believes in compliment sandwiches, which is say a great thing that's happening, bury the actual criticism you need to give on, like, the work or the thing you're working on, and then supplement with another compliment. I just say the thing that's wrong. and it does not rub people always the right way. You and I, in the times that we like work together, are both really good about what matters right now is this thing we're working on is a piece of shit and let's fix it.
Yeah.
And we don't need to like praise each other all day.
No.
And I think a lot of times people feel really like insecure about the work in a way that is a little foreign to me. And so I don't coddle for that super great. I think we're all on the same page. It's like, let's just tear this to shreds and then build it back up. So I get the note that I am being a little harsh sometimes. Would you, as a person who's worked with me, would you agree that I can do that?
I just don't find you harsh, but I also think it's because I think there's a correlation between how much you trust someone and their talent and how harsh you can be towards them.
Yes.
So I know you like my work. I don't think you think I'm an idiot. So you giving me a direction isn't a criticism of what I'm doing. You're just trying to get something better out of me. But I have received very, very direct notes that have like fucked me up. But it's because I don't know the person and I don't know what they feel about me.
Yeah, so you can't immediately be like, all right, I can bank on this familiarity to just say what I need to say. Now I have to like think about the way I can deliver this to you. It's like it's like exhausting, to be honest. It
is. I was a head writer and I worked with a lot of writers, and it was like really tough because there was times where I had to give notes and I had to cushion it in a way that I knew wouldn't hurt their feelings. But at the same time, I was like, you know how good you are. I don't need to tell you you're good. Like, you're obviously good enough to be in this room. So like, let's just get through this, you know? But it felt like I couldn't.
Sometimes people don't believe in that thing that you know in your gut, which is that like, if I don't respect you, you'll know it.
Oh my God, yeah. If I don't respect someone and I don't think they're good at their job, I will never be harsh because I won't even give them the time to give them a criticism.
I think that's right.
I think it's a useless endeavor. Like, I'm not
Yes.
going to give a criticism just to hurt someone's feelings or
Yes.
what the fuck am I going to get out of it?
The harshest thing you can get out of me is ignoring you.
Yeah.
Because it says that I'm like, I actually don't find what you're bringing to me right now to be worth my bandwidth.
And it's very interesting because I do believe that American culture, although it's very direct, I would not call it harsh. I think it's very polite.
I think that it is when people are not polite, they are immediately labeled asshole, and there is no gray area where like direct exists.
That's why, there's a bunch of Eastern Europeans that work in my company. They're not mean. They just communicate in a very different way. They're
Yes.
culturally
They are harsh communicators.
harsh. And Israelis are also very harsh communicators. Like, my Israeli friends say the most direct shit. Like, there was a Serbian writer on my staff, and he was just like, yeah, I mean, this is trash, right? Like, we can all agree this is just like trash.
Yep.
And we were like, it's like almost not salvageable is what I'm saying. Like, this is awful and it's ugly and it's terrible. And so what are we going to do? And then it's so, I wonder what is the reason behind it.
Well, it's got to be some element of like culturally, like how cushy has your lives been as like a mass populace?
That's so
Because if
true.
you're used to more like a brutal, harsh life, you're going to communicate more directly with that context in mind. Versus if you're like a person who's been lived a more privileged existence where you're not used to criticism or things being said no, you're going to experience that much differently.
I think that's why there's such a pushback on stuff like safe spaces in colleges and stuff like, not saying words in order to protect people's feelings, because you can't expect the world not to be harsh. Like, the world is a harsh place and you just need the tools to be able to manage and handle it. And you shouldn't expect the world to not be what I think it is, which is it's not an easy place. It's a fucking harsh ass place, bro.
Yeah, and your life is bobbing and weaving through other people's lives where you are not the priority, and therefore it is not easy to assume that everyone is going to give you the additional energy it takes to be nice.
Yeah, which I think it's like I'm never trying to make anyone's life worse off.
Right.
But I'm also like functioning in my, like, I think there are people out there that try to seek reasons to find offense in the way people act. Mm-hmm. And I think most people are just going about their life without any bad intention.
It's very difficult to live a life existing in the third person where you can see what you are doing at all times, monitor it, adjust it, and calibrate it to be the best version of yourself. Instead, you exist in first person. You're just experiencing it. You're doing it. When you cross a line, it's important to know and either learn from that or butt against that. But like, you can't be perfect at any of this stuff.
Bro, sometimes I'm just like the trash. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm showing up and I'm like tired and I'm going through shit and I'm stressed out and I'm sad and I'm just trying to get through the day.
Yeah, totally.
I'm trying to get through the day and I'm trying not to be a total fucking asshole.
Yep.
And I'm just getting through it. And I remember it was a meeting I think I had, and I was like heading to a funeral, but I didn't want to tell anyone. I was just trying to show up to work and then like leave.
Right.
And I showed up to this meeting and I didn't think about how I gave the note. I guess I gave a note to someone that wasn't the writer, thinking they wrote the script, but it wasn't. And I hung up and I received this like text about how offensive it was that I assumed that the script was written by a man and not this person.
Yeah.
And it was not at all that. It was just that I was just so not in what was happening.
Yeah. You were having your own experience that you couldn't quite like process, distill, revise.
And then I was like pissed, but then I was like, how many times have I done that? How many times have I gotten mad at someone and like been like, oh, this person's a fucking asshole, and there's just not know what context they showed up under and assumed it was about me?
Yeah,
probably countless amount of times.
It is so often not at all about you, because if it was to be about you, that would say that you are so much more important than other people.
You are, spoiler alert, not, especially to people that
None
love
of
you,
us are important. None of us are important.
I mean,
this isn't important. What are you doing here watching this?
Why are we here?
Why are we here?
Why are we here?
Oh no. Our conversation ended up down to this abysmal pit.
Why are we
No,
here?
you gotta pull back up. I did think of a harsh note I gave somebody on set once. In a directing situation, there is a vulnerability. A performer is giving you kind of their all without the ability to see what it is that they're doing. They trust you to guide them, right?
Right,
We
of
would
course.
agree that's the process.
Fully.
I was in Miami shooting with friends. Not with you. I'm normally with you in Miami shooting
I
something.
think
That
I
was
know
not-
what shoot this was.
My friend was on set, and it was a hot day, and she had gotten a little bit sweaty, and we were like just trying to make the day. I have a wide shot to do. It's very easy. I didn't even say anything. I just walked up to her quietly. I grabbed her arm and just placed it a little bit ahead so she would cover up a pit stain on her dress, and then I walked away. And she found it to be the harshest, most embarrassing moment of look at me excrete. This is awful. And she told me later, she was like, I wanted to die the moment you did that.
Oh my God.
I didn't even say anything. I just help me help you. You know what I mean? Keep an arm there for a minute.
I don't think that's I guess that's a harsh.
I think there is a world where I could have communicated what I needed instead of just puppeteering it, but I thought it was funny, first of all.
I think it's fun. I think there's a very fine line between offensive and funny when it comes to harsh comments.
Isn't that funny? That there is this thin line, and we exist around people who like to make each other laugh and one up one another. So we're constantly fucking with the line.
Oh yeah.
The play with the line is what is fun.
It's so funny.
But then if a normie person hears that, do you remember when our boss thought we hated each other?
What?
Our former boss, Flama, Yamin, we got into a discussion about a thing we were working on one time in an edit, and we were just tearing it apart, and we were tearing into each other a little bit because we believed two different sides of what made it work right.
Oh my God. Was I listen, God, you're being such a fucking dumbass.
Yeah.
Was I like,
At a certain point, I was like, well, you just remember that you're on one side of the camera and I'm on the other side of the camera, and we'll make some decisions, okay? I remember we were being mean out of a place of comfort, and also if we go so mean that it's funny, it deflates everything.
it really does.
But he was not that person.
Right.
And he legit, as our manager, thought he had to step in and do an HR meeting or something.
Yeah.
It's just it's not something that's normal. It's very specific to the kind of lives we've led.
Well, I think the intention is never to hurt.
Never.
I'm not I'm going to call Kris a little bitch because I want to hurt him.
Yeah.
It's I kind of want to deflate the situation, and this is kind of funny.
And when it hurts my feelings, that's my therapist's problem, not yours.
There we go. That's why you pay the big bucks.
That's why he gets paid the copay.
Harsh is, I appreciate it, but sometimes it depends who it's coming from, obviously.
Well, definitely. Who it comes from can help dictate whether it's harsh or not.
When women say something harsh, it hits different than when men say something harsh. We're programmed to know men are kind of more harsh. And when women get harsh, it's girl, what you doing? Aren't you a little nurturing baby?
Aren't you just supposed to be the sweetest thing right now?
It's funny because I just watched the Martha Stewart documentary, and Martha Stewart was a harsh freaking person. She's harsh. You just see her talk to people, and you're like, girl. It's probably weird to see someone who made being a homemaker and make a perfect little charcuterie plate but be a harsh ass bitch. But that's how she made it. Not that I think that you have to be harsh to be successful, but for her, I think it was sort of one of the reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can imagine a more dichotomous example of harshness in someone so feminine.
Yeah, right.
Because she started off as a model. She was really smart. And then she worked in Wall Street.
That's probably where she got brutal.
And she got brutal. And then she was like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I just think there's something wonderful about gardening and staying at home. But then she was like, but then also I want to be a multi-millionaire and make this a huge freaking economy. And it's this very feminine brand with such a brash character at the top.
But you know what that makes me think of as you're saying that is that, like, and maybe we've sort of already covered this ground, but the measurement of harshness has to do with the contrast of what you expected versus what you got.
Right.
Let's say you're Martha Stewart's assistant. You get used to how she interacts. You no longer experience it as harsh. You have the context.
That's true.
And then if she said an absolutely brutal thing, then that context is used to tell you how harsh it actually was.
Yeah, that's true. Harshness is it shifts depending on the person. There's no universal harshness level.
It's a fascinating thing. I'm only saying that out loud because I don't. This is one of those words. I don't think I've ever thought about this word this long.
I've never. It's kind of like a boring word.
Wow, really? I mean, what, we're 30 minutes in now and you want to tell everybody what they've been watching is boring?
Well, no, I don't think what we've been talking about is, but I'm not like, it's not a word that I ruminate on.
It's not a juicy word.
It's not bitch.
You really liked bitch last
I
week.
love bitch. I love auction, honestly.
Yeah.
Because harsh is a describer. It's not a thing.
It's an experience. It is not like a noun. Certainly not one of those.
You know what? You know what it isn't? A noun. And
Hand to God, let me tell you what it's not.
You know, I'm an English major and I still don't know what, like, I forget what prepositions are. I'm like, what?
Alicia has noted this before. She's like insistent that no one from the Midwest uses adverbs.
Like, quickly?
Now you're asking yourself what an adverb is?
Wait, is it adverb? Wait, what is an adverb? Okay, wait. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Okay, wait.
Time for Google Corner for an adverb.
Is it a describer of a verb?
Yeah, like swimmingly.
So I said quickly. That was my first one.
Oh, I didn't hear you say quick. I was just more laughing at your face. I was laughing at your horse face.
My horse face. Ironically, I am in LA now. Oh, look. Adverbs can answer questions like how, when, where, how much, how long, and how often. Oh my God, the adverb example is quickly, which is the one that I used.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. It's just like adding "ly" on it. Okay, so I was right. I'm not
Totally.
a dumbass.
But
Thank
like,
God.
I do not communicate that way. I will say like, oh, we're gonna get out there real quick instead of we're gonna get out there quickly. I would never say quickly.
Are you serious?
And it drives her nuts.
What a weird thing I've never ever noticed about you.
You haven't spent enough time with me, I guess.
I get made fun of a lot because in English, I have like some blind spots.
Yes.
But then in Spanish, I have, I think, even more blind spots.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I get some examples that would make sense to me?
Okay, there was like mold. We were talking about mold.
Okay.
And Daniel in Spanish was
Classic
like,
conversation.
and Daniel in Spanish was like, aquí hay mo. And I was like, mo? Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Oh, no. And he's like, that's the word for mold in Spanish. I'm like, there's no fucking way. The word for mold in Spanish is mo.
Mo.
And he was like, my bro, Google it. And it was, in fact, mo.
That's very good.
Another blind spot was in Spanish, the word for baseball is béisbol. And I just assumed it was spelled the English version since it's baseball. Yeah, it's not. It's B-E-I-S, B-O-L, bol. I'm like, well, why the fuck they spelled it that way? If
How much of this is like because you're growing up bilingual?
Because I grew up going to American schools.
Right.
So I never learned Celsius, even though I lived in a country that used Celsius and kilometers.
Right.
And I never understood. I'm like, people will be like, oh my God, it's 40 degrees Celsius. It's so hot. I'm like, yeah. Google, what the fuck is 40 degrees Celsius?
That's so funny to think. I just like, obviously, like, no one is expected to be like the master of their language, but what you're describing, like, baseball seems like one you should have known.
Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. I remember when I was like, that's how you spell it. And everyone was like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, how have you gone your whole life not realizing this? And I've noticed I have so many of those.
I'll share the one I messed up the most as a kid for you. You've heard it before, but I want to make sure I share in your misery. Until I was a late teen, I thought the word gazebo
This is my favorite fact about you.
was gazebo.
That's the best best thing I've ever. You told me this 10 years ago, and I think about it weekly.
It does come. I feel like it comes up a lot for you.
It's so funny to me.
I thought it was Gazzy-Boo.
I mean, I get it.
I mean, it reads like Gazzy-Boo.
I mean, more than that, I feel like you didn't grow up in a place with a lot of gazebos.
No. No, that's also true. They were very exotic things you saw in like fancy church gardens, and that was it.
Gazebos are like what very wealthy East Coast people have. Like Lorelai Gilmore, I think, hung out at a gazebo because it was a quaint little Eastern town. You don't have gazebos in Indiana, I don't think.
You have them occasionally, but like, yeah, it's also just a word you don't say out loud. We would always say like, get in there. You would never say get into that thing. Nobody would be like, the gazebo down the stream or anything like that. We're just not learned people.
It's wild to think the like blind spots we have and how we're unaware of them.
Absolutely unaware.
I think I told you this once, but another thing I'm completely unaware of was, what is it? Como que pouring salt into a wound? What is it?
Throwing salt in a wound.
No, I thought something was that. Making the wound worse. There's like a saying in English that's like...
Throwing salt in the wound is adding insult to injury.
Oh, there we go. That's it. But it's insult. It's not adding in salt to injury.
I get what the problem was.
I thought it was, you gotta, I was like, it's adding insult to injury. And I texted it to someone. And
they were text really does mess that up for you.
I was like, wait, why would it be what do you mean insult to injury? Isn't it the saying adding in salt to an injury? No. So I guess it's like what my acting teacher did.
Yes.
Which is, first he did the injury, which was like, you shouldn't go to LA because you look like a horse race girl. And then he insulted me on top of it and said, you have to lose 20 pounds. So he added insult to an injury.
Yeah. It's like breaking up with somebody and saying, I don't think this is really working. We're not very compatible. And I'm sorry that I've like broken your heart on our wedding day. Also, you smell.
Right. It's like, don't add.
That's an insult to the injury.
Okay. Well, that was pretty harsh.
Now I just want to talk about what expressions you've been confused by in your life.
There's a lot in Spanish, too, that I just like didn't. There was one in Spanish my mom would say that I said incorrectly. The real version is, it isn't that Maria was washing dishes and the soap ran out. Oh, that's not even it. I did it wrong. That's what I think it is.
You're not even like ready for it. Okay. Tell me what the actual one was.
It isn't like Maria was washing and the soap ran out. And I always was like, it isn't that Maria was out there washing the dishes and then suddenly the soap ran out. My mom was like, no, it's not the dishes. She wasn't washing something specific. She's just washing. And I'm like, wow, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Does it change the fucking meaning? The meaning's the same.
You know what? This one actually does ring a bell. I had an expression my father would say all of my life that I thought was just a known quantity in the world.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
My father, when describing the idea that I'm one of 5 when you count my step siblings. And so like if one of us got something, we all wanted the thing. It was like hard to be like individual and get your own things because herd mentality showed up. And my dad would describe that as everyone wants a turd in their pocket.
I think you've said that to me before.
I've said it out in professional environments thinking I was just being a tad folksy, which is not unheard of for me. And looking at me with disgust, and I realized that is not a word anybody says, or that's not a phrase anybody says.
Kris, wait, I went through the same exact thing. Not the same exact, not the turd part, because I think that...
I didn't do the turd part. To be clear, that's your problem.
That's your problem. Although I think that people can at least deduce what you're trying to say. I mean, actually not really. I have no idea what that meant. I don't even know. Nobody wants a turd in their pocket. So is it about nobody?
My dad's logic of the expression was that it doesn't matter if I gave you a turd, everybody would want a turd in their pocket.
Oh.
That is what it was. Nevertheless, nobody wants to hear me say that.
My entire life, my mom, when she wanted to say, and my dad, when they wanted to say like, this and that were happening, like this and that, they would say, ay, no sé qué curro girón, like this and that, like kind of sounds like, oh, I don't fucking know. And then like a couple, like a weird sounds after. Uh-huh. And I said it to Daniel and he was like, what the fuck are you saying? And I'm like, oh, it's a Venezuelan thing. And then we Googled it and it was nowhere. And I was like, wait, bro, wait. And so I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, what the fuck is no sé qué curro girón? And she was like, oh, my best friend from the office, like, would say it. And I'm like, okay, so then what was it? She's like, curro girón was a really famous bullfighter. And she just, like, was obsessed with him. So she would just say, like, this, that, and this bullfighter. And we just thought it was great. And, like, 4 people in the world use it. And I was like, hold the fuck up.
I said this to people.
And I like flash back to every single time. I've used this dozens of times, and no one's ever questioned me. They've just been polite. They haven't been harsh. My husband was harsh because he felt he had that familiarity and was like, you sound like a psychopath. It was this harshness that opened on my brain into realizing it was an inside joke I thought was language.
Yeah. Now, that is a harsh reality. Learning that something you thought everyone understood is actually something only you understand. And then realizing that, like, you're more alone in it than you thought. Yeah. I think that's a harsh reality.
Okay. Can I tell you another harsh reality?
Now, let's make it an actual harsh one, because some people that listen have real traumas in their lives.
Okay, okay, so it's how language is harsh. Like,
yeah.
There's, in Venezuelan Spanish, when you want to say, you won't believe this, but you say, die. Like, die, but, like, muérete. I never picked up on the harshness of it, of course. Like,
yeah,
it was
of course.
Just like,
you grew up with it.
Like, die, I don't have change. Okay? I didn't realize this was, like, Venezuelan, and I was paying at my corner deli, and the Salvadorian man, who I knew because he was my deli man for years.
Right.
He was like, hey, our credit card machine is out. Like, do you have any cash? And I look at my wallet, and I'm like, oh, die. I don't have cash. And he looked at me, like, very distraught.
Yeah.
And then my husband, like elbowed me, and he was like, are you fucking crazy? And I'm like, what? Why did you tell him to die? And I was like, I didn't tell him to die. I told him to die.
Yeah. It's different.
And I was like, wow, without the context of knowing what this word actually means to a completely different culture, like, what a harsh thing to say to someone. Also, how did this evolve into a very blasé way of saying, like, you're not going to believe this?
It probably started at some point in life, if it's not an inside joke sort of situation, like, these expressions happen in response to something, and, like, maybe it's funny or maybe it's significant, but then it, like, all the edges get shaved off over time, and then it's just a casual way to say it. That's the evolution of language, right?
We love talking about the evolution of language.
We love it, folks. We should get off of here.
Yeah, soon, I was going to say, but it
hasn't had a funny enough ending yet.
I know.
Make it funny quick.
Bro, Google Brony. Try
it. Please, when in doubt, use the Bronies.
Use the Bronies. There's probably something funny there.
Harshest Brony images.
Oh, my God.
Oh, first of all, I thought I said brownies. I'm going to have to put quotes around bronies. All right, let me tell you right now, Joanna, there's 2 links. And that's it on Google. I don't know, but I didn't want to see what I just clicked.
Oh, God. Is it terrible?
It was an Instagram link on your computer, so it means everything's way too big. But I did see mounting of a My Little Pony, and I stopped there.
You know what? That's not even funny. That's just disturbing.
It's not funny. It's just harsh for my eyeballs.
God, I thought it was going to be something funny.
No, I'm sorry to let you down. I continue to let down. I'm not a punchline guy.
Me neither. No. I'm not a punchline. You know what I am? I'm just a horse-faced girl. With 20 pounds to lose and a dream.
Get to work in those stables, honey.